Hi, Marco. I'm so happy
Hi.
to have you from Dolce Neve and excited to speak with you and learn about the story of Italy behind your craft. Thank you for joining me to give this culture talk. So, tell me a little bit about you and how long you and the team have been doing this.
Sure. So I am Marco. I am one of the three owners of Dolce Neve. I own this business with my sister Francesca and her fiancé Leo. We started Dolce Neve around 6 years ago. So we opened our first location in Austin on South First. And we opened a second location in Houston in 2017. And we opened another location in Austin, in East Austin, in February of 2020.
Got it. Wow, a lot has happened in almost 7 years. That's
I
great.
know it's crazy how time passes by so quickly.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me, with Francesca, you and Leo, the passion started somehow, right? So how did the passion develop, behind your expertise in this as cultural expression?
So I think gelato has always played a very important part in my life, even when I was a kid. If you're a young kid in Italy, I remember when you at the end of dinner, you go with your family to your local gelato shop, and you meet your friends, and the activity of going to get the gelato and eating the gelato is such an important role in our Italian society. And it's not just a matter of enjoying the product itself. It's just the adventure of going there, looking for new gelato flavors and connecting with the rest of the community. And so since when I was a kid, I think I always had great memories associated with the experience of eating gelato. And there were a couple of gelato shops I went to as a kid that had a strong, a strong impact on my life and on decision in making gelato. Because I met these artisans that were so passionate about their career and so passionate about innovating and experimenting and trying new things while always being authentic with their core mission.
If you in your experience as a kid growing up in Italy, or just the way that things are done in Italy, that the way that you feel that even your own customers, your own guests, that you try to carry that culture through to them, how they experience it here?
I try to do that as much as I can, especially when I am in the store. And I feel like this is what the customers want when they come to the store. Mm-hmm. There is a huge chunk of the customer base that I have that the first thing that tells me when they get into the store is they want to tell me their stories about their trips to Italy, or how they went to Florence and Venice and they had at least gelato twice a day. And so I try to bring that to them as much as I can. I try to share my story with them, and I try to listen to what they want to share with me. I feel like they have so many good memories of their trips to Italy that they want really for me to listen to them. And in a way, I am the one that has lived 20 or more years in Italy. So I can relate with them and the experience that they had when they were visiting my country.
Some of the ingredients that you use, where, is it regional? How is it characterized by either the cities that you've experienced, or regionally how the popularity of those flavors come through? And also you mentioned innovation. I know, you're really big on some flavors that really carry through that creativity as well, so that your craft comes through.
Mm-hmm. I think when we think of the menu that we want to offer at the store, we need to find a balance between the more traditional flavors that are based on the classic flavors you can find in a gelato shop when you go to Italy. So like pistachio, hazelnut, chocolate, and but at the same time you need to find something else like to offer to your customers. And the more innovative flavors are coming both from a need from the customers that want to try something new that only you can offer, and also from our desire to like to offer something new. At the end of the day, like doing the same flavors over and over, it can get a little boring.
Yeah.
And so you want to try to find ways to make the experience more like challenging for them, more like for them and for you as well. So it is always a matter of how can I make sure that I am entertained in what I do, and how I can make sure that the customer is entertained as well. And coming up with new flavors is a way to do that. And, and actually, it's not just a matter of finding new flavors. It's also a matter of experimenting with new ingredients. Let me make an example. Even for the more traditional flavors like chocolate, talking about a chocolate flavor is a little reductive because there are so many variables you can play with and like really experiment with the flavors that can make the experience for the customer much more interesting. For example, we like to play with the origin of our chocolate. We can use chocolate that is coming from the Dominican Republic, that 1 month or 1 week we may switch to a different origin, like we're gonna get some chocolates from Ghana that we've never tasted before, but I'm curious to see how it's gonna affect the flavor of our gelato. And so it's also a matter of how you use the ingredients that can help make you stand out from everything else that is on the market right now. Going back to instead the more innovative flavors, the way in which we look at them is we either start from the ingredient itself. So we see an interesting ingredient that we've never used before, and we start thinking, oh, how can we incorporate that ingredient into a gelato flavor? And what we may do is we usually look at what other pastry chefs have done in different desserts. So maybe in a cake or in a pie or any other dessert form. And then we try to translate that dessert into a gelato flavor. In other cases, instead, we get inspired directly from a dessert that we have eaten somewhere at a restaurant. And we make our own modification to kind of come up with a flavor that we think can be compelling for the customer.
You're innovating, and it's almost like, you know, just like I'm sure in Italy where every gelato, like there's gelato shops all over, but each one has their own way of preparation. So like the classic way to produce it, you know, with the turning and all that stuff, that stays. But everyone knows you for, I mean, at the end of the day, the innovation. And so even though with Francesca, she's classically trained in producing gelato, you all add your own character, your own family's character to how you produce and what you do.
And I think if I can like add something to it, in Italy there are probably around 30,000 gelato shops.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I would say more than 70% of these gelato shops use pre-made mixes. And the problem with using pre-made mixes is that it is everything tend to kind of taste the same and tend to like lose their like identity. And this is an issue that I think started becoming more prevalent in the 80s. In the last, I would say 5 to 10 years instead, more artisanal gelato shops started to open up. So there was like a resurgence in the terms of like the culture of gelato in Italy as well. And people started going back to making the gelato in the artisanal way, so starting from scratch. And the beauty of it is that based on where you're coming from, in there are like different ways of making gelato. So, for example, the gelato that is made in Tuscany, in Florence, is going to be rich in egg yolk, and it's not going to have any proteins from milk powder. Instead, if you move to Sicily, like they don't like using egg yolks at all, and so you need to find other ways to introduce that solid in the gelato, and that's going to have like that is going to affect like the flavor, of course, the texture, and I think that like it helps you kind of integrate yourself in the experience of eating gelato in that specific place. And then, of course, if you add the fact that you're in a specific area, you're going to find some specific ingredients that are going to help you create flavors that you can have only there. If we talk about Sicily, for example, you have some specific areas. For example, you have Bronte and Noto, where you have amazing pistachios and almonds. And of course, now you're able to like bring those pistachio and almonds everywhere in the world, but it's much easier to get them if you are in Sicily. And that means that if you go there, probably those are the type of flavor that you're going to want to try, because you have the opportunity of taste a gelato flavor that is made with those specific ingredients that are a representation of the territory they're growing.
Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't think that the ingredients varied so differently across the regions, you know what I mean? So you mentioned the pistachio, where it's easier to get that in Italy, or the almonds. It's kind of like what I've heard about even the cuisine, where, you know, cheese is most prevalent in certain regions, whereas tomatoes are the base in other regions. But, you know, for someone who just thinks, oh, Italian food or gelato, you wouldn't know that. So that's really amazing that the art of creating gelato is characterized by where it's made, you know, as much as the food, and both are famous, obviously, in the country. So what are some of the recipes that you feel characterize you or your family? I mean, we talked a little bit about, I mean, obviously, you know, there's creativity and there is the tradition. What about just you and your sister and your brother-in-law? What do you feel stands out for you?
So if I look at the ingredients that we have been using, I would say, if I look back at the territory where I'm from, so I'm from region Marche, that is like just east of Rome.
Okay.
There is a liquor that we use that is called Barnelli, that is like an anise type of liquor. So we have used that one as a component in our gelato. So we have made a coffee and Barnelli gelato more than once. And we, like, every time we make gelato with cherries, that is very close to my heart, because in my area we have these wild cherries that you can go and like get in the countryside, and it has a very specific tart flavor that you cannot find in the regular cherries that you buy at the supermarket. So every time that we are able to get a hold of those wild cherries when we import them from Italy, it kind of has a very strong connection to my root. And yeah, we'll say probably those are the things that are more connected with
When you've last been over to Italy, you and Francesca and Leo, and you know, what are some of your favorite things to see and do
when I am in Italy?
Yeah.
I think usually what I tell my customers when they come to me and they ask me, okay, I'm going to Italy, where should I go? And I usually tell them, if it is the first time that you go, just go to the usual suspects. So like Rome, Florence, and Venice. But if you've already been there and you need to explore new places, I usually ask them, what do you like to do? So if you like hiking, there are so many great places to go in northern Italy, so in the Dolomites, in the Alps, or even in central Italy, even near to my hometown. If you like the countryside, you can probably skip Tuscany, that is so overcrowded, and you can go to Marche or Umbria, where you're going to find the same amazing like view from the hills, amazing food. And or if you have a couple of weeks and you really want to experience something great that is not going to be a completely Italian experience, but it has its own beauty, I recommend going to Sicily. Like you go there for 2 weeks, there is everything in there. There is great food, there is culture. If you like the beach, there are so many amazing beaches over there.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, it kind of depends on what you like to do,
right.
And then you have so many great options.
So if you think about the last time you went over to Italy, what's a renewed spirit that you feel that you bring back? You know, is it the people? Is it the music? Is it the social aspect? What do you feel that you bring?
When I go to Italy and I come back here, what I bring back. So I think here in the US, people here in the US have a very strong focus on how you're selling rather than what you're selling, and everything tends to be a lot about appearance rather than substance. And of course, I'm generalizing now, but this is like one of the things that I'm observing right now, maybe even due to the explosion of social media. And instead, I feel like when I go back to Italy, people are a little more down to earth in terms of how they value things. So I feel like when I go back to Italy, I really understand what it means to be passionate about the food that you're eating and what it really means to cook something with ingredients that are able to bring the most out of the flavor of a dish. So it becomes more a matter of making sure that you're executing something perfectly and that you're focusing on flavor rather than you're focusing on something that is gonna look good on camera.
Yeah.
In a way, it is energizing, and I feel like it helps us being more transparent, and it helps us build a story to tell to the customer that we really believe in, instead of a story that we need to tell because this is what society wants us to tell. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, so that's what I get out of that. So it's almost like you go back to train. You go back to train on the culture every time you go back, essentially.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And, I feel like sometimes, like when you do something for 4, 5, or 6 years, you tend to go and do things by inertia, and you need something that like energizes you again. Yeah. And probably when you go back to Italy, you're able to detach yourself from your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
And like find inspiration and motivations again to create. And it kind of helps you understand why you did this in the first place.
Yes.
That is, bring an element of your culture to a different place, and make sure that you do it in the best possible way.
I know beyond the gelato, you have some other frozen desserts as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we do gelato popsicles as well. So like gelato dipped in dark chocolate, and then we do gelato sandwiches. We make everything in-house, the cookies as well. and now we started like doing gelato cakes too, which helps us with the like, a little to create something a little more innovative every once in a while. And we started making hazelnut spreads a couple of months ago. I love hazelnut spreads in general, and I feel like sometimes what you can find here is a little too rich in sugar, or it doesn't have a strong flavor itself. So like they're supposed to be hazelnut chocolate spread, but you can barely taste any hazelnuts. So we decided to do our own version, and we started working with our organic suppliers of hazelnuts that are from Oregon, and with our bean to bar chocolatier that brings us the single origin chocolate, and we combine those elements to make a new product that is lower in sugar than the competition and has more than 50% of hazelnuts content in it.
That sounds really amazing. And the fact that you all just a couple months ago started doing that, that's just another thing that you offer that is that taste of Italy, you know what I mean? Something that's very popular over there. No, that's really great. And the coffees, you have a coffee menu also?
Yeah, we also sell espresso, which is a good add-on if people like want to spend some time in the store and they want a cup of gelato and then a shot of espresso. I think it's a great combination.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's very Italian. It's the cafe, true cafe experience. You can sit and linger, not just walk out. you know, so it's a great way that you help them to experience that by extending into the beverages as well. Well, Marco, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and I want to encourage everyone to come and experience Dolce Neve for themselves and get a real genuine taste of Italy and your family. And thank you so much.
Thank you.